time you turn on a faucet, a city-sized machine wakes up, pumps fire. Pressure shifts across miles of pipe. Chemical dosing systems adjust in real time. Reservoirs that took decades to fill release thousands of gallons per second, all so you can pour a glass of water without thinking about it. The United States runs 2.2 million miles of underground water pipe. That is enough to wrap around the Earth 88 times. And according to the American Society of Civil Engineers, this network scores a C- on their 2025 infrastructure report card. But the grade is not the scary part. The scary part is what happens when the machine stops working and nobody sees it coming. Most people picture water infrastructure as pipes. Pipes under streets, pipes into homes. Simple enough. The reality is staggeringly more complex. A modern municipal water system is an interconnected web of reservoirs, aqueducts, pumping stations, treatment plants, distribution mains, service lines, and pressure management zones, all operating simultaneously, around the clock, every single day. Right now, roughly 148,000 public water systems distribute 39 billion gallons of water every day across the United States. That is not a utility, that is an organism. At a treatment plant, raw water passes through coagulation, sedimentation, filtration, and disinfection before it ever reaches a main line. Operators monitor dozens of chemical parameters in real time, adjusting chlorine levels, pH balance, and fluoride dosing based on seasonal changes, weather patterns, and demand spikes. If a single dosing error goes undetected for a few hours, thousands of people could be exposed to contamination. That nearly happened in Oldsmar, Florida in 2021 when a hacker remotely increased sodium hydroxide levels to 100 times the normal concentration at a water treatment plant. An operator caught it in time. Barely. This is the paradox of water infrastructure. When it works, nobody notices. When it fails, the consequences can be catastrophic. And right now, across the country, the system is failing more often than most people realize. The average water pipe in the United States is 45 years old. Some cast iron mains still in service were laid before the First World War. In cities like Philadelphia, pipes installed before the Civil War are still carrying drinking water today. According to a Utah State University study of nearly 400,000 miles of pipe data, the US and Canada experience roughly 260,000 water main breaks annually. That works out to a break somewhere in the system every 2 minutes. The repair bill alone runs about $2.6 billion a year. But the breaks are only part of the story. The bigger drain is leakage, the slow, invisible loss of treated water seeping through deteriorating joints and corroded walls underground. The country loses an estimated 6 billion gallons of treated water every single day to leaks. That is water that was sourced, transported, chemically treated, tested, and pumped, only to disappear into the soil before anyone could drink it. And then there is what is inside the pipes. The EPA reports that roughly 9.2 million lead service lines still carry water into American homes. Lead, a neurotoxin with no safe level of exposure for children, remains embedded in the infrastructure connecting treatment plants to kitchen faucets. In 2024, the EPA finalized a rule requiring nationwide replacement of lead pipes. The estimated cost to replace aging water infrastructure, including pipes, treatment plants, and related systems, is approximately $625 billion. McKinsey estimated the sector's funding gap at $110 billion in 2024 alone, a figure projected to reach $194 billion by 2030. The math is simple. The country is spending far less than what the system needs to survive. But the consequences of that math are anything but simple. In April 2014, officials in Flint, Michigan, switched the city's water source from Detroit's system to the Flint River. It was a cost-saving measure. The city was broke, and the river was right there. What nobody accounted for was corrosion. The Flint River water was more corrosive than the Detroit supply, and the city failed to apply corrosion inhibitors. Old lead pipes began leaching directly into the drinking water. Within months, residents complained about the color, smell, and taste of what was coming out of their taps. Officials told them the water was safe. It was not safe. Lead levels in some homes reached 13,200 parts per billion. The federal action level is 15. A Virginia Tech research team found levels nearly 70 times over the EPA limit. Around 100,000 residents were exposed. 2 outbreaks of Legionnaire's disease during the crisis killed at least 12 people. Children across the city showed elevated blood lead levels, a condition linked to developmental delays, cognitive impairment, and lifelong neurological damage. The Michigan Civil Rights Commission later concluded the government's response was a result of systemic racism. 15 government officials were eventually charged with crimes. A class action lawsuit settled for $626 million. Flint was not a freak accident. It was an infrastructure failure compounded by negligence, the kind that becomes more likely as systems age and budgets shrink. And Flint is far from the only city with this problem. The system was already struggling. Now it faces threats it was never designed to handle. Climate change is intensifying both ends of the water cycle. Droughts are drying up supply, storms and flooding are overwhelming treatment capacity. In 2024, Texas officials warned the state could face severe water shortages by 2030, driven by population growth, drought, and aging infrastructure competing for the same shrinking supply. At the same time, new industrial demand is accelerating. Data centers, the backbone of cloud computing and AI, consume enormous volumes of water for cooling. And the EPA now requires utilities to address PFAS contamination, so-called forever chemicals found in water supplies across the country, adding another layer of cost and complexity to systems already stretched thin. Meanwhile, 1/3 of the water workforce will be eligible for retirement within this decade, according to EPA data from 2020. The median age of a water utility worker is 48. Only 10% are under 24. The people who know how to run these systems are leaving, and not enough people are replacing them. The invisible machine is losing operators at the same time it is gaining problems. The system that delivers water to 330 million Americans was built by people who assumed someone would maintain it after them. For decades, nobody did. The pipes kept running, the bills stayed low, and the machine stayed invisible. Flint proved what happens when you ignore it long enough. The question now is whether the rest of the country learns that lesson before the next faucet goes dry. If you want to see what happens when the electrical grid faces the same kind of pressure, that video is on screen now.